Hey guys, tonight we're taking a wild, sleep-deprived trip back to an era when your doctor's prescription pad was basically a rave flyer. That's right. We're talking about what 1950s diet pills actually did to women's bodies. Imagine a world where you could lose 10 pounds, a week's worth of sleep, and maybe all your friends, just by saying yes to a little white pill from your family doctor. This is wellness, post-war style, one jitter at a time. So before you collapse from second-hand anxiety, take a second to like and subscribe. But honestly, only if you actually enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment letting me know where you're listening from. Now, dim those lights, flip on the fan for some classic background noise, get comfortable, and maybe tuck yourself in tight so you don't leap up and start reorganizing your entire pantry. We're about to go on a trip, not that kind probably. But let's pause and ask the questions nobody dares. What did it feel like to live in a world where housework was a competitive sport and weight loss was sponsored by Big Pharma? Did 1950s housewives really take enough pills to vacuum the neighbor's yard? Was the secret to a clean kitchen just pharmaceutical enthusiasm? What happened when you mixed diet pills with cocktail hour? Was there a support group for women who accidentally alphabetized their pets? And when the pills wore off, did anyone actually remember their own name? Congratulations. You've just woken up at 1956. Your dress is starched, your shoes are impractical, and your doctor has just handed you something that makes espresso look like a bedtime story. Welcome to the world of 1950s diet pills, hope in a bottle with a side effect of existential dread. The sun is barely up, but you are. Welcome to the average morning in the 50s, where your breakfast menu includes scrambled eggs, burnt toast, and a tablet of pharmaceutical pep. The coffee is hot, but the pill is hotter, and soon you're vibrating with enough energy to invent a new form of jazz, or at least alphabetize the family's canned goods. Hunger? What's that? Let's set the scene. You're standing in a pastel kitchen, floors gleaming with linoleum so new it's probably still off-gassing lead. The clock on the wall ticks softly, but you don't really hear it. You can practically feel the seconds sliding by in high definition. Your robe is cinched tight, your slippers are fluffy, and your hair is coiled just so. The house is quiet, except for the gentle percolation of the coffee pot and the faint hum of existential dread buried under 3 layers of mascara. You reach into the medicine cabinet. There, next to the Vicks and the cod liver oil, sits your magic bottle, Benzedrine. The label says, for energy, appetite suppression, and relief of mild depression, which is a mid-century code for don't ask too many questions. Just trust your doctor. You take your pill with a sip of black coffee. It doesn't taste like much, but it hits like a freight train in a cashmere sweater. Within minutes, the world goes from black and white to technicolor. The kitchen, which looked slightly dingy 5 minutes ago, now sparkles with the possibility of greatness. The toast pops up, slightly burned, but you don't mind. You're too busy rearranging your plans for the day, your week, your entire life. Maybe you'll wax the floor. Maybe you'll wax the car. Maybe you'll write a novel about waxing things. It all feels possible. The sensation is both exhilarating and faintly ridiculous. Your hands tap out a jittery rhythm on the countertop, like you're auditioning for a big band orchestra. Even your dog looks at you with concern as you start dusting the light fixtures before sunrise. You tell yourself it's just getting ahead of chores. The truth? The amphetamines have kicked in, and you've already forgotten what it felt like to move at a normal human pace. Breakfast is served, but you're not really eating. The eggs go cold on the plate while you wipe down the toaster, organize the cutlery drawer, and contemplate alphabetizing the soup cans by region. Your stomach is quiet. That little pill has dialed your hunger down to 0 and turned your inner monologue up to 11. You watch the rest of the family shuffle in, yawning, still tied to the gravity of sleep. You're halfway through rearranging the pantry. And here's the thing. This isn't some secret vice. It's perfectly normal. At least, that's what the commercials say. The magazines call it starting your day with pep. Your doctor calls it a little pick-me-up. Even the neighbors are on board. If anything, you're behind the curve if you aren't crushing your to-do list before 8 a.m. It's not a problem, it's progress. Or so you tell yourself, dusting the tops of the door frames like a caffeinated squirrel. There's a crisp, almost metallic taste to the air, a byproduct of both the cleaning products and your newfound chemical enthusiasm. The radio plays a cheerful jingle about being trim and terrific, and for a moment, you believe it. You're not tired. You're not hungry. You're not even anxious, just alert, alive, and possibly capable of launching a small business before lunch. But beneath the rush, a tiny question nags at you. Is this what healthy feels like? You're not sure, but there's no time to think about that. You've got breakfast to skip, floors to mop, and a rapidly growing suspicion that you could teach the neighbor's cat to tap dance if you just had one more pill. And so the day begins, not with a gentle rise, but with a jolt, toast, coffee, Benzedrine, and the distinct sense that this is only the beginning. Welcome to morning in the 1950s. Let the high-functioning chaos commence. By mid-morning, you've vacuumed, dusted, and wiped down the kitchen walls, all while mentally narrating your own detergent commercial. Diet pills have turned housework into a speed sport, and you're on lap 3 before the radio even gets to the news. Is it efficiency or mania? Does it matter if the windows are streak-free? Let's take a closer look. The breakfast plates are still warm, but you're already 10 steps ahead, arms moving in a dizzying blur. The kitchen is sparkling. The living room has never looked so tidy. You've color-coordinated the couch cushions, refluffed the shag rug, and discovered a new way to fold hand towels that you're convinced will catch on nationwide. The family dog has started hiding under the bed, mostly for safety reasons. You're not sure if you're cleaning for health, for pride, or because the pills have rewired your nervous system into an automated scrub cycle. It's not just the surfaces, the air itself is vibrating, charged with the energy of someone who's had 5 coffees and an existential crisis before 10 a.m. You find yourself humming along with the vacuum, unconsciously tapping out a beat with the handle. It's almost musical, the swoosh of the broom, the thump of the mop, the mechanical whir of a hoover that sounds suspiciously like your own racing heart. Welcome to the 1950s, where keeping house is one part Olympic sport, one part pharmaceutical experiment. Let's not forget the commercials running in your mind. As you dust the end table, you can hear your own imaginary radio ad. New Super. Sheen polish. For when you need to impress the in-laws and the FBI, you see yourself in black and white, smiling at the camera, hair set and pearls gleaming, even as your real-life hair frizzes with static and your pearls are clacking together like castanets. Your mind is spinning up a script for every task. You too can wash 47 windows before lunch with the magic of modern chemistry. Should someone interrupt this flow, a phone call, a stray child, a milkman at the door, you simply incorporate them into the routine. Good morning, Mr. Jenkins. Would you like your shoes shined while I mop the porch? At some point you realize you've started wiping down things that, frankly, never needed to be wiped before. The baseboards are gleaming. The light bulbs are smudge-free. You're pondering the dust on the telephone cord and making a mental note to clean the inside of the toaster, just in case someone looks. Your sense of achievement is only rivaled by your mounting suspicion that you may have lost track of time, space, and the distinction between hygiene and obsession. You glance outside and spot Mrs. Perkins next door. She's already out in the yard, scrubbing the bird bath. You make eye contact. There's a moment of mutual recognition, a subtle nod, a shared understanding between two women riding the same pharmaceutical lightning bolt. Great weather for getting things done. You call, just loud enough to be heard over the roar of two vacuums, one on each side of the fence. By now, the house smells like lemon and bleach and the faint ozone of freshly laundered ambition. Every surface glistens. Even the air feels disinfected. The irony, of course, is that you haven't stopped to actually enjoy any of it. There's no pause, no admire your handiwork moment. The pills keep you moving, urging you to start the next task before your brain can process what you've already done. At this point, you might wonder, is this what fulfillment feels like? Or is it just a side effect of modern living in a bottle? Your mind flickers with questions. When was the last time you sat down? Why does the radio news sound like it's running in slow motion? Is your heart supposed to flutter every time you spot a new smudge on the glass? But there's no time to dwell. The house is clean, but the world is messy, and there's always something else to do. By noon, you're back where you started, rag in hand, wondering if the kitchen walls could be a little brighter. Maybe, just maybe, you'll re-wax the floor. After all, you've got energy to burn and a reputation for excellence, or at least an inability to sit still for more than 4 consecutive seconds. Congratulations, you've survived another morning of mid-century speed cleaning. Take a breath, if you can remember how. Lunch is next, but who needs food when you've got Benzedrine and a dust-free dining room? You sit in your doctor's office and describe fatigue and moodiness. He listens solemnly, nods, and prescribes amphetamines. In 1956, this is the gold standard of medical advice. Don't sleep more, just go faster. Your doctor, who has 3 martinis for lunch, assures you it's perfectly safe. The room smells faintly of aftershave, old paper, and the clinical optimism of a medical professional who is only a decade removed from recommending cigarettes for stress relief. The waiting room is full of women in floral dresses and pearls, each clutching her own small list of acceptable complaints, feeling sluggish, a little blue, perhaps nervous exhaustion, which is the 1950s diagnosis for raising 3 kids and 1 adult husband. You don't need to exaggerate your symptoms. In fact, you barely get through your first sentence before the prescription pad comes out like a magician's wand. Your doctor, Dr. Macmillan, is part family confidant, part neighborhood oracle, and all business. He doesn't ask how much sleep you're getting or whether you've had a break since Eisenhower was elected. Instead, he nods sagely, crosses his legs, and launches into a reassuring monologue about the wonders of modern science. He tells you that these new pills will give you pep, keep your spirits up, and make life feel a little lighter. There's a diploma on the wall and a half-finished crossword puzzle on the desk, which probably contains the word Benzedrine. You glance at the shelf. It's lined with bottles, B12, iron tonics, and then the star of the show, little white tablets in neatly labeled jars. Your doctor reaches for the amphetamines like he's handing out mints. Just take 1 each morning with breakfast. If you're still tired, you can always try 2. The pen hovers for a moment as he adds a refill. After all, who knows when fatigue might strike again? You're barely out of the office before you realize you've just been given a legal medical-grade speed run for the cost of a $10 copay and a brief mention of low energy. And let's not pretend this is a hidden secret. The pamphlets on the counter practically beg you to try something new. Feel youthful. Feel light. Ask your doctor for the modern solution. There's even a smiling cartoon housewife on one brochure, winking next to the phrase, "for natural vitality." You tuck the prescription into your handbag, feeling vaguely reassured and more than a little curious. On the drive home, the reality starts to settle in. You're not sure if you're relieved or just startled by how easily medical intervention has become a household accessory. There are no lectures about diet, no gentle reminders to get more sleep or take a walk in the Sunday. Instead, you've been swept up in a wave of optimism that sounds suspiciously like a sales pitch. The radio in your car is advertising the same pills you now have in your purse, promising you'll whistle while you work and get the dishes done in record time. Back at home, you open the bottle. The pills are small, unassuming, not nearly as intimidating as their effects will be. You set them next to the salt shaker, breakfast essentials. The idea of questioning your doctor doesn't even occur to you. Why would it? He wears a white coat, drives a Buick, and remembers your children's names. If he says it's fine, it must be. As the days go by, you notice your prescription is not unique. Your friends have the same bottles in their medicine cabinets, sometimes with different colored pills. Blue, pink, yellow, like pharmaceutical Easter eggs. At Bridge Club, the conversation shifts from baking tips to which pill helps the most, whose doctor is the most generous with refills, and how Mrs. Johnson finally got through her spring cleaning without once sitting down. It all feels very normal, which is the strangest part. The pharmacy fills your prescription without so much as a raised eyebrow. Your husband is delighted that you're yourself again, which really means energetic and more pleasant to be around. Even the dog seems slightly on edge, as if he too suspects something's different in the water. You try not to think about side effects. The only warning you get is a vague mention that you might not feel as hungry, which is repeated like a bonus rather than a caution. And so you pop your pill each morning and glide through your day, carried along by the current of medical consensus and a culture that prefers its problems solved with a handshake, a wink, and a refill. Congratulations, you've just become a proud participant in the great American experiment of pharmaceutical happiness. And you didn't even have to ask twice. There's a new religion in town, and it's called being slim enough to fit into last year's pencil skirt. Magazines scream about waistlines, neighbors gossip about your hips, and even the postman has opinions about your silhouette. The only thing scarier than fat is missing your next refill. Welcome to 1950s suburbia, where every driveway is freshly hosed down, every hedge is trimmed, and every waistline is a battleground. Your living room may have a crucifix, but your nightstand hosts a far more influential idol, the bathroom scale. Each morning, you step onto it with the reverence of a pilgrim and the anxiety of a sinner at confession. The number blinking up at you carries more weight, or less, hopefully, than any prayer, because here, thin isn't just an adjective. It's proof of virtue, willpower, and possibly the secret to world peace. Everywhere you turn, someone is ready to convert you. There are diet columns in every magazine, photos of impossibly cinched waist movie stars grinning through hunger headaches, and radio jingles that promise a slimmer you. By next Sunday, your neighbors exchange calorie charts like baseball cards. Even the diner waitress sizes you up before she offers the diet plate, which is basically a hamburger without the joy. You walk to the corner drugstore, past Mrs. Henderson watering her roses with one hand and clutching her waist with the other. She's wearing a girdle so tight it could be used as scaffolding. She winks at you, a fellow worshipper, before sighing about the battle of the bulge and how she's only had grapefruit and regret since Tuesday. This isn't just casual dieting, it's ritual. The sermons are everywhere. The latest beauty queen claims she stays thin by eating only cottage cheese and weeping softly before bedtime. Hollywood starlets, interviewed in glossy print, credit their figures to discipline and positive thinking, while discreetly pocketing the same pills in your own kitchen drawer. And for the modern housewife, there's no holier text than the weekly magazine diet page, full of celery-based miracles and horror stories about falling off the wagon and gaining an ounce. It's a gospel of deprivation, and the congregation is growing. You learn to keep your cravings secret, a late-night cracker nibbled in shame, a slice of birthday cake dissected into invisibly thin slivers. Children are scolded for puppy fat. Husbands offer backhanded compliments about watching your figure. Even the local minister throws in a joke about gluttony during Sunday's sermon. Original sin, but with more lettuce. And when you do gain a pound, the response is swift and merciless. Your friends feign concern while scanning you up and down, offering the latest miracle solution they saw on television. Was it the bread? The butter? The fact that you dared eat 2 meals in one day? The guilt lands heavier than a fruitcake at Christmas. And the solution is always the same. Try harder, eat less, pop another pill. The cult does not tolerate heretics. The house itself becomes a site of worship. You hide snacks as if they're evidence in a federal trial. The fridge is stocked with carrot sticks, the pantry with air and self-loathing. Every mirror is a confessional. Every meal a moral test. There is always someone thinner, and that someone is always in your mind, eating nothing but compliments. But here's the secret they don't print in the magazines. Nobody ever really wins. The goalposts keep moving. Last year's ideal is this year's failure. Thin enough becomes maybe a little thinner, and so you keep running on the hamster wheel, chasing the illusion of approval that flickers just out of reach, all while everyone else pretends they're not doing exactly the same thing. Congratulations, you're now a full-fledged member of the cult of thinness. The only thing more exhausting than trying to keep up is the knowledge that you'll never truly be done. But hey, at least you'll fit into the pencil skirt at the next church picnic, assuming you can still breathe. The ads are everywhere. Lose weight, feel great. You're promised effortless beauty, more energy, and instant popularity, all for the low price of a mild heart arrhythmia. Glamorous women beam from magazine pages. But nobody mentions the night sweats or the sudden urge to reorganize your spice rack at 2 a.m. Let's take a closer look at the sales pitch. Every magazine you open is a neon shrine to the Church of Chemical Transformation. There's a dazzling housewife, hair sculpted to architectural perfection, balancing a vacuum cleaner with one hand and her entire self-worth with the other. The headline promises, "Lose 10 pounds by Easter." The small print should read, "Results may include sleeplessness, hyperactivity, and spontaneously learning the Greek alphabet at midnight." But you'll never find that in Ladies' Home Journal. Turn on the radio and you're serenaded by jingles for trim tabs or calorie cutters. Names that sound less like medicine and more like forbidden snacks. The music is peppy, the voices are soothing, and everyone seems to be having the time of their life, except you, sitting in your kitchen, resisting the urge to climb the curtains for a cardio boost. Even your favorite soap opera is sponsored by some sort of vitamin-fortified, amphetamine-adjacent wonder tablet. If you're not thin, you're at least supposed to look alert, and preferably thrilled about it. The real miracle is that anyone buys this at face value. But buy it you do, and not just because the ad says so. It's the testimonials. I was just a plain Jane until Slim Shape. Now I've lost the pounds and gained the attention of the butcher, the grocer, and my husband, in that order. It's hard to argue with a woman holding a scale and a trophy. Bonus points if she's also holding a pie, smiling triumphantly, and wearing a girdle tight enough to bend steel. Your friends trade stories in hushed tones at bridge club. The pink ones work faster, but the blue ones don't make me jittery. I heard Betty's on the yellow ones, from that ad with the lady in pearls. Even your pharmacist has opinions, suggesting the new formula like he's recommending a fine wine. Nobody mentions the sleepless nights or the sudden desire to alphabetize your shoes, because that's not the kind of thing you admit in polite company. And then there are the miracle claims. Suppresses hunger, boosts mood, increases charm. It's as if these pills can change your personality, your popularity, and your very fate. The ads never show the aftermath. The heart racing at 2 a.m., the skin prickling, the mind whirring with the logistics of cleaning the garage, the attic, and possibly the roof. Instead, the marketing is a fever dream of effortless glamour. If you're still tired, it's your own fault for not doubling the dose. There's a subtle war being waged in every medicine cabinet. Bottles and boxes line up like soldiers, promising to fight the battle of the bulge on your behalf. Why try harder when you can just take a pill, the ad implies. It's modern, it's scientific, it's practically patriotic. Housewives everywhere are quietly buzzing, jittering, and wondering why their left eye hasn't stopped twitching since the 4th of July. No one talks about the returns either. The boxes you toss in the trash because they made your teeth chatter, or the bottles you hide behind the pancake syrup when company comes over. The side effects are a secret language. If you know, you know. If you don't, you just keep smiling, thinner and a little more frazzled every week. By the time you've cycled through 3 brands and 2 different miracle formulas, you're left with a pantry full of hope, a heart that occasionally tap dances in your chest, and a growing suspicion that effortless beauty may actually be code for please send help. But as long as the ads keep running, the cult of miracle pills marches on. After all, the next one might just work, or at least get you through one more day. Noon rolls around, but lunch doesn't. You're not hungry, just sort of hollow and oddly philosophical about carrots. Maybe you chew a piece of celery for old time's sake. But your real nourishment is the vague sense of being ahead on your chores. Your stomach forgot what food is, and your brain's not far behind. Let's zoom in on your daily meal. It's midday, and sunlight slants through the kitchen window, illuminating a bowl of wilting lettuce that's been there since breakfast. Once upon a time, noon meant a sandwich, a bowl of soup, maybe a slice of pie if you were feeling cheeky. But now, under the benevolent reign of the diet pill, lunch is less of an event and more of a theoretical concept, like vacation days or personal fulfillment. Your hand drifts automatically to the fridge, but you open it mostly out of habit, not hunger. The shelves are lined with Tupperware, each container holding a sad little secret. Last night's casserole, a forgotten hard-boiled egg, something that might have once been yellow but now has the texture of optimism left out in the rain. You stand there, staring, feeling an odd sense of accomplishment. Why eat when you could not? The pills have dissolved your appetite like detergent down a drain. Outside, the world is in full swing. The mailman hustles by, dogs bark at delivery trucks, and Mrs. Perkins next door waves while mowing her lawn with the energy of a minor demigod. She's skipping lunch, too. It's what everyone's doing. Eating is for people with slow metabolisms and poor moral fiber. At least, that's what the magazines suggest. You pour yourself a glass of water and contemplate your options. An apple looks appealing for a moment, but then you remember, fruit is full of sugar. Best not. Instead, you nibble a single stalk of celery, convincing yourself it's basically a health elixir. The crunch is satisfying, but the flavor is so faint it's more suggestion than sustenance. Chewing feels like busy work for your jaw. Something to do while your hands arrange and rearrange the salt and pepper shakers into an elaborate tableau of mid-century minimalism. As your stomach grumbles faintly, you ignore it. This, you remind yourself, is progress. Isn't this what all the advertisements promised? Effortless slimness, constant pep. Your pep is starting to wane, but you push through, buoyed by the knowledge that at least you aren't giving in to bad habits. There's pride in hunger, or at least that's what everyone tells you. You glance at the clock, still an hour until the kids come home. 2 until your husband will want dinner. That's when the real performance begins. Cheerfully preparing a meal you have no intention of sharing. The house is spotless, your hair is immaculate, and you've burned enough calories worrying about calories to qualify as cardio. Who needs lunch, anyway? A faint sense of vertigo creeps in around the edges, but you shake it off and focus on the endless to-do list. You've started alphabetizing the spices by language of origin. You can almost hear the praise. "How do you keep your figure?" they'll ask. You'll smile mysteriously and say something about discipline, carefully omitting the part where discipline comes with a prescription and side effects. The afternoon sun grows hotter. Your energy flickers, fades, and rallies in erratic waves. You water the plants and forget which ones you've already done. Your mind drifts, slightly fuzzy, like the signal on a black and white TV. You write a note to yourself, eat lunch, and immediately lose it. By the time you realize you're dizzy, the urge to eat has already passed. Hunger is for the weak, or at least for the undisciplined. You look in the mirror and see someone thinner, a little paler, eyes too bright. You convince yourself this is victory. Lunch? Who needs it? You've got pills, water, and the kind of determination that leaves your stomach silent and your hands always in motion. Another day, another meal skipped, all in the name of progress. Pills aren't just for your medicine cabinet. They're party favors. Housewives gather in living rooms to trade recipes, gossip, and occasionally amphetamines. Try the blue ones. They go great with coffee. If you're not jittery by dessert, did you even socialize? It's Thursday night, and the living room is alive with the soft clink of china, the gentle titter of laughter, and the unmistakable sound of several women vibrating at slightly different frequencies. You've been invited to what's technically a recipe exchange, but the only recipe anyone really cares about is how to survive another week in suburbia without eating an entire loaf of bread out of sheer boredom. The rules are simple. Bring your favorite new casserole, your juiciest neighborhood rumor, and a sample from your latest prescription. The hostess, Mrs. Franklin, floats between the clusters of guests with a tray of petite fours and a knowing smile. Her medicine cabinet is legendary. Rumor has it she's got enough pep pills to power a minor league baseball team and enough Valium to sedate the opposing team's fans. Tonight, she's trying out a new combo. Blue ones for morning chores, yellow ones for lunch, and a mysterious pink capsule for special occasions. Translation: visits from her mother-in-law. The kitchen counter becomes a pop-up pharmacy. Someone brings out a pill organizer the size of a loaf of Wonder Bread, its compartments rattling like a maraca. "Here, try these, doctor." Sims says they're even better than last month's batch, less twitchy, more zing. The group huddles around, dispensing medical advice with the confidence of people who have never once read the warning label. No one asks too many questions. If your doctor prescribed it, it's basically a vitamin, right? There's an unspoken etiquette to the trade. Swapping pills is a gesture of trust, a sign that you're all in this together. Recipes are exchanged too. My tuna casserole, your lemon bars, and 2 of your blue pills for next Thursday's PTA meeting. It's the social glue of the neighborhood, the invisible current that keeps everyone running just a little bit faster, a little bit thinner, and a lot more anxious. Between sips of coffee, decaf allegedly, and nibbles of low-calorie cookies, the conversation zips from child-rearing to housework to the best way to trick your husband into eating more vegetables. But beneath it all is the constant hum of pharmaceutical one-upmanship. I only need half a tablet these days, someone brags. And you can't help but feel a flicker of competitive pride. Or maybe that's just the jitters from your second helping. Every so often, someone slips into the bathroom to powder her nose and comes out looking like she could regrout the entire bathroom floor in under 10 minutes. Nobody bats an eye. It's the price of admission. If you're not at least a little wired, are you even trying? The party isn't over until someone volunteers to alphabetize the hostess's spice rack for fun. The swapping isn't just about getting through the day. It's about solidarity. The silent agreement that none of you signed up for this, but hey, at least you're in it together. There's something almost revolutionary in the way you pass a bottle across the table. Fingers brushing in a secret handshake. The men never notice. They just comment on how cheerful everyone seems lately and how quickly the laundry gets done. As the evening winds down and you gather your purse, you double-check that you've got your share of tonight's bounty. There's an almost giddy thrill to it, a sense of being part of something secret and a little bit dangerous. Tucked inside the most wholesome scene in America, you step into the cool night air, clutching your Tupperware and your borrowed blue pills, and marvel at the absurdity of it all. You've just survived another suburban summit, kept up with the Joneses, and maybe, just maybe, scored enough energy to get you through the weekend. The new Tupperware party, where the leftovers are medicinal and the main course is camaraderie with a side of controlled substances. Welcome to the club. You've never been so clean or so exhausted. Every surface sparkles, but you've started naming the dust bunnies. The linoleum has never shined so bright, and neither have your eyes, which are now permanently open. You suspect you could see sounds. Let's be honest, at first the cleaning is exhilarating. You are the domestic whirlwind, arms flailing and heart fluttering, fueled by something stronger than coffee and more persuasive than guilt. Every smudge becomes an affront to civilization. You scrub the sink until the chrome shines so brightly you could use it as a signal mirror if you ever get lost in your own kitchen. The stove gets a detail job usually reserved for classic cars, and the inside of the refrigerator gleams like a dentist's office. Somewhere, deep under the couch, you discover a long-lost sock and an existential crisis. It's not just the main rooms, either. No, you're on a mission now. The corners of the ceiling have never known such attention. You vacuum the drapes. You dust the light bulbs. You actually Google, "Can a ceiling fan judge me?" and decide the answer is probably yes. So you wipe it down twice. The family starts to worry. The goldfish, especially as you clean his bowl for the second time in an hour. Even the mailman comments, "Wow, you can see your face in that mailbox." You reply, "You should see what I did to the doorknob," and realize you've crossed an invisible threshold. Your hands smell of lemon, bleach, and the faint tingle of overachievement. You can't stop. Every time you sit, you notice a new flaw, a streak on the mirror, a fleck of dust on the bookshelf, a fingerprint on a window. It's like whack-a-mole, but instead of winning a prize, you earn the right to re-clean the same spot in 30 minutes. The urge to polish grows into an obsession. You briefly consider buffing the dog, just for the shine. And let's not forget your eyes. They don't close anymore, not fully. Your pupils are dilated, your lashes blink at twice their usual speed. You see things others cannot. The minute glint of dust under the piano, the subtle discoloration in the grout, the ghostly outlines of last week's footprints on the back porch. Sound seems sharper too. The sizzle of the iron, the drip of the faucet, the cheerful torment of the floor wax commercial playing on the radio. You are hyper-aware, hyper-alert, and one errant crumb away from launching an all-out assault on the breadbox. Meanwhile, exhaustion looms just out of sight, waiting for you to slow down. But the pills keep you from ever truly stopping. If you try to nap, your brain starts planning tomorrow's cleaning schedule. If you close your eyes, your hands twitch for the feel of a scrub brush. You wonder, vaguely, if this is what enlightenment feels like. If Buddhist monks ever looked around their monasteries and thought, that windowsill could use a little love. But beneath the relentless sparkle, you're starting to fade. Your legs are heavy, your shoulders ache, and your back is one sneeze away from permanent protest. Still, you persist. After all, everyone on TV looks immaculate. Surely you can manage to keep up. You don't want to let down the invisible audience that judges your flaws, your countertops, your very sense of self-worth. By evening, the house is so spotless it could double as an operating theatre. But you feel strangely hollow. You've chased away every speck of dirt, but the satisfaction is fleeting. The family tiptoes through the living room like tourists in a museum, afraid to touch anything, least of all you, eyes wild, sponge in hand, daring them to leave a shoe print. Congratulations, your house is immaculate. Your energy is spent, and your dust bunnies are on the endangered species list. You're cleaner than ever, but maybe, just maybe, you've scrubbed away the line between order and obsession. Welcome to mid-century hygiene. Sparkling, exhausting, and just a little bit unhinged. Willpower? No need. Diet pills have killed your appetite so thoroughly that even looking at a sandwich feels rebellious. You read cookbooks for fun and watch others eat like a Victorian ghost haunting the dinner table. It's noon, but you're not thinking about lunch. You're thinking about the peculiar thrill of not thinking about lunch. Your stomach is a background hum, barely noticeable beneath the fizzing static of your own nervous energy. The kitchen, that old battleground of casseroles and temptation, now feels more like a museum, a place you visit but never really touch. The family gathers around the table for the midday meal. You hover, serving dishes with a practiced hand, but your plate stays suspiciously clean. A single celery stick, maybe a lone cherry tomato rolling about like a marble. Not hungry, you chirp, flashing a tight smile. Nobody questions it. In 1956, being thin is enough explanation for anything. If anything, people are impressed. Look at her, so disciplined, so modern, so ethereal she might just float away on a breeze. Instead, you feast with your eyes. The new Betty Crocker cookbook is your secret pleasure. Page after glossy page of pineapple upside-down cakes, jello molds suspended in technicolor, meatloaf towers with architectural ambitions. You study recipes with the focus of a scholar deciphering ancient runes. But the idea of actually eating feels as distant as a trip to Paris. You collect recipes like rare stamps and daydream about flavor combinations, but your fork remains untouched. Sometimes you watch the others eat, really watch, with a fascination bordering on the paranormal. Your husband chews his roast beef, blissfully unaware he's being observed like a specimen in a lab. The children make faces at green beans and barter dinner rolls for extra dessert. You wonder if they realize how lucky they are, how wild it feels to simply eat what you want, when you want, and think nothing of it. To them, food is just food. To you, It's a test of character. And it's not just about skipping meals. It's about finding little ways to make the absence of food feel virtuous, even exciting. You sip endless glasses of water, black coffee, or if you're really pushing the envelope, a splash of lemon in hot water, the ultimate appetite trick. Each passing hour without food is a small triumph, a silent gold star pinned to your psyche. You've internalized the ads. Hunger is the enemy, thinness is your calling, and a diet pill is your ticket to sainthood. Occasionally, temptation creeps in. A waft of toast, a whiff of bacon from a neighbor's open window. You pause momentarily, feeling almost reckless. What if you just took a bite? But the chemical clamp on your appetite is unyielding, and anyway, you remember, nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. You saw it in a magazine, so it must be true. Instead of snacking, you distract yourself with busy work. You alphabetize spices, polish silverware, and find yourself scrubbing the grout with a toothbrush for fun. You're everywhere and nowhere at once. A blur of motion and intent. Hunger becomes a sort of spiritual discipline, a daily fast performed for the approval of a society that's watching every inch of your waistline. Late at night, you read old family recipes in bed. Comfort food from another era, rich with cream and cheese and memories of holiday gatherings. You tell yourself you could make them someday. Maybe when you've lost just 5 more pounds. Maybe when the pills run out. Maybe when you can trust yourself again. But for now, you're content to haunt the dinner table. A slender apparition gliding past plates piled high, savoring the victory of not eating, and convincing yourself and everyone else that you never really wanted it anyway. Welcome to the art of not eating. Less a diet, more a disappearing act. Your husband loves the new you. Thin, energetic, always smiling. He has no idea you haven't slept since Tuesday. He thanks your doctor at dinner parties, not realizing he's basically married to a legal speed addict with excellent cuticles. Let's step into your living room, where a pipe-smoking, newspaper-rustling husband stretches in his easy chair and basks in the glow of a wife who suddenly has the stamina of a Labrador retriever. The lawn is trimmed, the roast is perfect, and the silverware could double as a dental mirror. I don't know what's gotten into you lately, honey, but keep it up, he says, with the clueless pride of a man who believes a good attitude is something you can sprinkle on oatmeal. To him, your transformation is the work of modern science and good old-fashioned willpower. He tells his friends at the office that you've really taken to the latest health fads, conveniently skipping the part where health is a small tablet with side effects that sound like the symptoms of demonic possession. He marvels at your energy, your cheerfulness, your miraculous ability to greet each day at 5 a.m. with a smile and an ambitious plan for reorganizing the attic. At dinner parties, your husband becomes your biggest fan and accidental hype man. You know, it's the funniest thing. Ever since Dr. Sanders put her on those little white pills, she's just been a dynamo. The other men nod approvingly, sipping their whiskey sours, grateful for a world where the only problem with women was occasionally solved by a pharmaceutical miracle. Their wives, sitting nearby, trade knowing glances over the relish tray. They're all on the same merry-go-round, but the husbands only see the parade. He delights in your new figure, the effortless meals, the perpetual tidiness of the house. He credits your discipline and the modern way of living. If you seem a little wired at bedtime, he assumes it's excitement about tomorrow's chores. If you weep during a toothpaste commercial, he chalks it up to those days. He is an expert at benign neglect, which, in 1956, is basically considered emotional intelligence. The truth is, your husband is just as much a product of his time as you are. He grew up in an era that promised efficiency, convenience, and a well-oiled domestic machine. Housewives are supposed to be happy, healthy, and thin. If science can deliver all three in a pill, then why not celebrate? He never stops to wonder if you might be a little too perfect, or if the price of that perfection is a mind that can't sit still and a body that vibrates through the night. At first, you play along, soaking in the praise and the occasional bouquet of supermarket flowers. It's flattering to be noticed. Even if he's really noticing the absence of complaints and the abundance of clean socks. You paste on a smile, try not to let your eyelid twitch, and accept the compliments as graciously as you accept your next prescription. But over time, the act gets harder to maintain. He doesn't notice when your appetite vanishes, when your hands tremble as you serve dinner, or when you retreat to the bathroom just to sit in silence for a moment, letting the fluorescent lights buzz in sympathy. He sleeps soundly while you lie awake, making lists of chores you've already finished. In the morning, he thanks you for another wonderful breakfast, never suspecting that you've been up since 3, alphabetizing the canned goods and contemplating the meaning of grout. Still, you love him, or at least you remember loving him before you became a hyperactive, insomniac version of yourself, haunted by the ticking kitchen clock and the relentless hum of productivity. He's supportive in his way, even if his way is blissful ignorance mixed with genuine affection. If only love were as easy as swallowing a pill, and so you go on, the perfect housewife in the perfect house, with a husband who is proud of you, grateful for you, and entirely unaware that the new you is just the old you, dialed up to 11. If he ever asks, you'll just smile and say, "It's nothing, dear. Just keeping up with the times." The sun goes down, but you don't. Instead, you crash into cocktail hour with a mood that can only be described as nervous sitcom protagonist. 1 minute you're laughing at the TV, the next you're weeping because the commercial jingle is just so beautiful. Evening in 1956 arrives like a flood of golden light through the Venetian blinds, bouncing off your freshly polished coffee table and glinting in your eyes, which, incidentally, have not closed in about 40 hours. The kitchen is clean, dinner is simmering, and it's time for that sacred ritual, the cocktail. But you're not really here for the gin or the olives. You're here to ride out the chemical roller coaster that has become your emotional landscape. It starts innocently enough. You pour yourself a martini, just a little something to take the edge off after a day spent spinning through your to-do list at double speed. The first sip burns in a familiar, comforting way. The second sip doesn't really do anything, because the diet pills are still running the show, but you don't mind. You perch on the arm of the couch and stare at the television, desperate for some kind of escape, or at least a distraction from your own heartbeat, which seems to be broadcasting in Morse code. The commercials begin. There's a catchy jingle for floor wax, a peppy family singing about cheese, and suddenly you're sobbing, clutching a throw pillow, and mourning the fate of all dairy cows. They just want to be loved. You sniffle. 10 minutes later, you're doubled over in laughter as the sitcom husband fumbles his way through another misunderstanding about laundry. The family doesn't question it. Your husband offers you another olive. Your children tiptoe around you, and the dog watches warily from under the sideboard. It's not just the TV. Your mood is a weather system, unpredictable and dramatic, rolling through the house like a thunderstorm. One moment, you're brimming with affection, ready to bake cupcakes for the whole block. The next, you're muttering about how no one appreciates all that you do. Sometimes, you float from room to room on a cloud of euphoria, certain that this is the best night of your life. Other times, you're convinced the world is ending because someone forgot to refill the ice tray. The pills promised energy, but they delivered volatility. Tiny frustrations, a wrinkled tablecloth, a missed spot on the window, are now personal attacks. Triumphs are euphoric, setbacks are devastating. You contemplate phoning a friend, but you can't decide if you want to gossip, cry, or challenge her to a cleaning contest. Instead, you pour another drink and change the channel. Dinner is a blur. The family eats, you push food around your plate, wondering why the roast looks so emotional tonight. As dusk settles in, you become introspective. Maybe you overdid it on the pills today. Maybe you should switch brands. Maybe you should run for city council, or join a convent, or learn to play the accordion. By dessert, you're laughing again. The pie is so beautiful, you declare. It brings a tear to your eye. As the night wears on, your emotions start to untangle. Exhaustion creeps in, but sleep remains elusive. You retreat to the bathroom, stare at your reflection, and try to remember what it was like to feel steady, predictable, yourself. The lines on your face look a little deeper, your eyes a little wilder. Still, you powder your nose, smile, and tell yourself that tomorrow will be different. The clock ticks past midnight, and you're still awake, the last glow of the martini swirling in your glass. You watch the city lights flicker outside and hope that the next commercial is a funny one, or maybe a sad one. Honestly, you're ready for either. Congratulations. You've survived another martini hour on the edge of hilarity and heartbreak, all before the news at 11. Welcome to the mood swings. 1 part chemistry, 1 part exhaustion, and 1 part classic American denial. Sleep, when it finally comes, is just another punchline. The pharmacy is your new local hangout. The pharmacist knows your secrets, and so does half the block. But as long as the prescription's legal, no one bats an eye. The only illegal thing is admitting you might have a problem. You swing open the door to Main Street Pharmacy, greeted by the faint aroma of floor polish, bubble gum, and medical-grade optimism. The bell above the door jingles, a cheerful announcement that another housewife is here to pick up her weekly miracle. Behind the counter stands Mr. Ellison, your pharmacist and, unofficially, the closest thing this town has to a confessional booth. He offers a smile and a discreet nod, already reaching for the little white bag with your name on it. It's all so familiar, so friendly, so perfectly normal. There are no whispered exchanges, no nervous glances. Instead, the pills are counted out with the same matter-of-fact efficiency as a loaf of bread or a can of beans. In the 1950s, the pharmacy isn't a shadowy den of vice. It's just another stop on your list of errands. You chat about the weather, the new supermarket, the state of the high school football team. These should help with your energy, Mr. Ellison says, tapping the bottle into your palm with a wink. You both know it's code for good luck with your life. You're not alone, of course. Half the neighborhood cycles through these doors each week, collecting pills for everything from weight loss to nerves to keeping up with the Joneses. The ritual is the same for everyone: a smile, a signature, and a polite silence about what happens after. Sometimes you see familiar faces, hands clutching identical white bags. Sometimes you notice Mrs. Henderson with a different label on her bottle, comparing notes by the magazine rack. You exchange pleasantries, careful not to mention how quickly you'll both be back for a refill. Your doctor plays his part too. Dr. Sanders is always cheerful, always confident. You're just tired, that's all. It's perfectly normal. You never have to convince him. A few words about sleepless nights or feeling a little down and he's scribbling away, pad in hand, giving you a chemical solution for a cultural problem. Sometimes you wonder if he ever prescribes anything else. Denial is baked into the routine. No one calls it addiction. That's for criminals and movie stars, not nice women in pastel cardigans. If the pills are prescribed, they must be safe. If everyone is taking them, it can't be wrong. The only danger is admitting, even to yourself, that maybe this is too easy, too automatic, too much. You make jokes about it at bridge club. If I run out, you'll find me alphabetizing the neighbors' flower beds just for something to do. The other women laugh, their own bottles rattling in their purses. The line between camaraderie and complicity blurs, and soon it's hard to tell who's worried and who's just waiting for their next dose. The husbands don't notice, or if they do, they're just glad the chores get done. There are stories, of course. Rumors about women who had to take a break after their hands wouldn't stop shaking, or the one who fainted at the beauty parlor. Nobody says it's the pills. It's nerves or hormones, or maybe just trying too hard. Admitting anything else would mean facing a truth too unsettling for afternoon tea. By the time you get home, the white bag disappears into the medicine cabinet, tucked between toothpaste and aspirin, as if it's always been there. You tell yourself you'll slow down, maybe take a day off, but then the list of chores grows and the silence creeps in. The pills are a solution for everything and nothing, an answer nobody wants to question. And so you keep going. You refill the prescription, smile at the pharmacist, and pretend that everything is perfectly fine. Welcome to the Great American Denial. It comes in a bottle, fits in your purse, and, for now, is just another part of the routine. Passing out is just another sign that the diet is working. Fainting at the beauty salon or PTA meeting is met with knowing nods and mild applause. Beauty isn't pain. It's a controlled descent into hypoglycemia. You feel it coming on around 2 p.m., right after your second cup of coffee and fourth errand of the day. The world gets a little shimmery around the edges. You blame the lighting at first, or maybe the fumes from all the lemon pledge you've been using since sunrise. But then your knees buckle just slightly. Your vision turns briefly to television static, and you have to steady yourself on the nearest countertop, a polite smile still glued to your face. Nobody gasps. Nobody panics. In fact, the room almost expects it. At the beauty salon, your stylist props you up with the efficiency of someone who's caught more fainting women than a 1920s swoon doctor. "Don't worry, honey, happens to the best of us," she says, waving over a glass of tepid water and a stick of peppermint gum. Around you, ladies nod knowingly, some with the pale, drawn look of fellow travelers, others with a faint glimmer of envy. "She must really be losing weight," someone whispers, as if you've just passed an entrance exam for glamorous self-destruction. It's not just salons. The PTA meeting, church bake sale, or neighborhood canasta game all play by the same rules. You excuse yourself to the bathroom and splash water on your face, heart hammering in your ears. On the way back, Mrs. Perkins corners you with a conspiratorial smile. "Which brand are you on? My sister swears by the green ones, but I get the jitters." It's solidarity, suburban style. Misery loves company. Especially when company is also fainting quietly into a potted fern. The irony is, your collapse is often seen as a kind of achievement, a sign that you're working hard at not eating, at keeping up, at maintaining that elusive figure everyone is quietly obsessed with. Fainting is proof that you're doing something right, or at least something that everyone else is too embarrassed to do in public. It's the modern version of the Victorian delicate constitution. Only now, instead of swooning from tight corsets, you're toppling over from a combination of empty calories and pharmaceutical ambition. Nobody mentions the side effects. The clammy skin, the shakiness, the creeping sense of dread when your vision tunnels and your mouth goes dry. You learn to carry a compact mirror in one hand and a peppermint in the other, just in case. You memorize the feel of the nearest chair, the sound of polite applause when you come to, and the embarrassed giggle that deflects any real concern. At home, you recover with another pill and a glass of water, hoping that next time you'll make it through the day without showing off your willpower. The family notices only in passing. "Rough day?" your husband asks, glancing up from the paper. You look slender. It's meant as a compliment, and you take it as such. Even as you sit down slowly and wait for the world to stop spinning, you start to expect it, even plan for it. A little dizziness before lunch, a brief blackout at the supermarket. You reassure yourself it's just a sign of progress. A necessary price for beauty. A step on the road to the new. Improved you. The fear of collapsing in public is almost outweighed by the pride of knowing you're working hard. If people notice, all the better. It means you're getting results. So you power through. Cheeks flushed, eyelids fluttering, mind teetering between accomplishment and exhaustion. The world might be tilting, but at least your dress size is dropping. Passing out isn't a crisis, it's a badge of honor, a punchline at coffee hour, a shared secret in the cult of thinness. And when you wake up, someone is always there with a compliment, a concerned smile, or, if you're lucky, a chair that's already been wiped down. Midnight arrives, but sleep does not. Instead, you lie awake, heart thumping, making mental lists of things to clean. The bed is soft, but your eyelids are in denial. Insomnia, now available in tablet form. It's the middle of the night, and the world is a gentle hush, except, of course, inside your brain, which is running a full-scale parade. You stare at the ceiling, its tiny cracks and shadows transformed into a new cleaning challenge. The sheets are crisp, the pillow is fluffed, but you're wide awake, vibrating with a combination of pharmaceutical zeal and the creeping suspicion that you might have forgotten to dust the chandelier. It's a golden age for dust bunnies, but a dark era for shut-eye. Your husband snores beside you, perfectly content in the way only the deeply oblivious can be. You envy his ease. How does he do it? Is it genetic? Or is he just not haunted by the knowledge that the linen closet might be hiding a single rebellious spiderweb? He'll never know the agony of being tired but wired, of chasing the horizon of sleep with legs made of lead and a brain that's hosting a late-night talk show. You try everything, flipping the pillow to the cool side, counting sheep, counting the tiles on the bathroom floor, reciting the names of every cleaning product under the sink. None of it works. You're too alert, too restless, and just the tiniest bit paranoid that you've left the oven on. You're tempted to get up and check, maybe straighten the spice rack while you're at it. But you know if you start, you'll be alphabetizing canned goods until dawn. The clock ticks on. 1 a.m. becomes 2 a.m. Your thoughts are a game of hopscotch. Did I pay the electric bill? What if I rearrange the living room tomorrow? Is it normal to be able to hear your own pulse in your ears? Every now and then, a wave of exhaustion washes over you. But just as you're about to slip under, your body jolts you back to shore. Mind racing with plans for tomorrow's laundry. Sleep, once a nightly ritual, has become an elusive luxury. You remember when it came easily, when you could drift off to the sound of crickets and wake up refreshed. Now, it's a game of will she, won't she? And the answer is always won't, but she'll try again. In half an hour. You think wistfully about the magazine ads that promised energy without effort, pep without pain. They never mentioned the fine print. May cause sudden interest in reorganizing the attic at 3 a.m. There's an irony to it all. You started taking the pills so you could do more, be more, keep up with everything and everyone. Now, at the one moment when you actually want to do nothing at all, your body refuses to cooperate. You sigh, staring into the darkness, waiting for your mind to slow down. Instead, It only speeds up, flipping through every unresolved problem, every unfinished task, every perceived imperfection. Occasionally, you reach for the radio, hoping a soft lullaby or a midnight drama will drown out the static in your head. But even the music feels hyperactive, a jittery waltz that matches the rhythm of your heart. The street outside is silent, the world asleep, and you lie there, wide-eyed, living proof that sometimes the cure is worse than the condition. As dawn edges in, sleep finally arrives, fragile and fleeting. It's a shallow, restless thing, a nap masquerading as rest. You wake up feeling like you've run a marathon in your sleep, which, in a way, you have, chasing the finish line of rest and always coming up short. Congratulations. You've survived another sleepless night in the age of PEP. Sleep may be a forgotten luxury, but at least your closets will be immaculate. When the pills stop working, the blame starts. Everyone has advice, but the message is clear. If you gain weight, it's your fault. You just need more willpower, or maybe a different pill, preferably one that also irons shirts. Let's zoom in on this moment, right around the time you realize your miracle fix has become just another bottle in the medicine cabinet. The first weeks were easy, pounds vanished, hunger was a rumor, and energy gushed through your veins like soda from a shaken bottle. But bodies are clever, and yours is tired of running laps around the living room at midnight. The scale stalls, then inches upward. Defying logic and pharmaceutical optimism, you cut your calories, you walk in ever tighter circles, and still, your skirt feels a little snug. Now the real magic trick begins, turning struggle into shame. The magazines, those Bibles of American thinness, announce it's all about mindset. The bridge club murmurs about discipline. The neighbor offers a recipe for cabbage soup, delivered with a side of pity. "I just wish I had your willpower," she says, not noticing the way your hands tremble from the effort of pretending. The idea is simple. Success is just a matter of grit. If you're not thin, you must be weak, lazy, or insufficiently devoted to the cause. Your doctor nods sympathetically, flipping through your chart as if searching for the page where you stopped trying. "Maybe it's time to double your efforts," he offers, never suggesting you double your sleep or halve your anxiety. There's always another pill, a newer, stronger, possibly lemon-flavored variety. The pharmacy is stocked with options, each promising to do what the last one couldn't. Erase appetite, speed metabolism, rewire your brain for perpetual cheerfulness. The failure is never in the product, it's in you. At home, the guilt becomes its own meal, served cold with a side of celery. You watch your husband and children eat while you nibble on air, wondering if you've lost the spark that made the first weeks so easy. The diet books pile up, promising new secrets and old promises. Each chapter reads like an indictment. Are you tracking your calories? Weighing every ounce? Saying your daily affirmations and only thinking thin thoughts? If not, no wonder you're slipping. The absurdity grows. You meet women who can't sleep, can't eat, and can't stop scrubbing the grout, but who are congratulated for sticking with it. Others quietly regain what they lost and are met with lectures about motivation. You try to smile through it, to be the success story everyone needs. But your patience is as thin as your appetite used to be. And so, the cycle turns. You promise yourself tomorrow will be better, more walking, less snacking, another new pep pill. You scour the latest ad for inspiration. Slimness is a choice, it proclaims, next to a photo of a woman who looks like she's never experienced a carbohydrate in her life. You laugh, or maybe you sigh, and head to the kitchen to rearrange the cutlery. Again, the truth is, Nobody wants to admit that these little pills, these rituals of willpower, aren't magic. They're a chemical negotiation with your own biology. And eventually, biology pushes back. But instead of compassion, you get a lecture. Instead of rest, you get another prescription. The message is clear. Thinness is not just about medicine, it's about moral character. If you fail, you simply weren't trying hard enough. So you keep up the act, stoic, smiling, committed. You tell yourself next time will be different. And maybe, one day, you'll believe it. But for now, you reach for another bottle, another promise, and hope that somewhere in the fine print, someone finally mentions mercy. Welcome to the willpower myth, where the only thing thinner than your waistline is your patience. The high never lasts. Eventually, you're left exhausted, jittery, and hungrier than a bear in spring. The weight creeps back, and so does the anxiety. The answer, of course, is always more pills. If that fails, try crying quietly into a pillow. Let's rewind to the golden days, just a few weeks ago, maybe a month. You were gliding through the world on a chemical cloud, skipping meals, skipping worries, skipping, occasionally, entire nights of sleep. But now the magic is wearing thin, and your body knows it. The bright, sharp mornings have turned to dull, dragging afternoons. Your bones ache in a way that feels ancient. The kitchen clock seems to tick more, loudly, but you're moving slower, your pep replaced by a kind of nervous fatigue. It starts subtle, like a storm rolling in from the edges. You find yourself yawning in the middle of the day, eyelids heavy despite 3 cups of coffee. The to-do list sits unfinished. The floors haven't been mopped since Tuesday, which feels scandalous. The energy that once drove you to alphabetize the pantry now barely carries you from one room to the next. Even the dust bunnies seem to be gathering strength, plotting a comeback tour beneath the sofa. Hunger returns like an old, slightly angry friend. Suddenly, a saltine looks like a feast. You stand in front of the fridge, staring at leftovers you once ignored, now filled with longing for something, anything, to fill the hollow ache in your gut. You tell yourself you'll just have a carrot, but soon it's half the fridge. The pills, your once reliable shield, don't seem to do the trick anymore. You eat, you sigh, you scold yourself, and you start calculating how long it will take to fix this slip. Then, there's the anxiety. It sneaks up between chores, buzzing beneath your skin. You worry about your weight, your house, your reflection in the mirror. You worry about worrying. Your heart skips a beat, or maybe 3, and you wonder if it's the caffeine or just your nervous system filing a formal complaint. Your sleep, already fragile, splinters further. You wake up unrested, feeling like you've run a marathon in your dreams. The solution is obvious, or so the ads and doctors and bridge club whispers say. Take another pill, or 2, or maybe try that new supercharged formula. You collect bottles like trading cards, each one promising to do what the last one couldn't: bring back the high, erase the cravings, and banish the bloat. If it comes with a few more side effects, well, that's just the price of progress. The phrase "just keep going" echoes louder than your own sense of caution, but here's the secret nobody tells you. Sometimes, more pills just mean a harder fall. The more you chase the energy, the less you find it. The more you try to starve the hunger, the hungrier you get. The cycle spins on, and you find yourself teetering between manic productivity and complete inertia, never quite landing in between. Your friends mention they're tired too, but everyone keeps smiling, keeps moving, keeps pretending. When you finally break down, in the pantry, on the freshly scrubbed kitchen floor, or quietly into your pillow after everyone else is asleep, the sadness arrives soft and sharp all at once. The tears feel like a betrayal, a sign you couldn't keep up. You hide them, of course. Admitting defeat isn't part of the program. You just blame the onions, the TV movie, or those days. But the world keeps turning. And so do you. Even if it feels like you're just spinning in circles, the crash is real, but so is your stubbornness. Tomorrow, you'll try again. Maybe fewer pills. Maybe more. Maybe you'll just nap in the coat closet and hope nobody notices. Welcome to the aftermath of artificial energy. The crash, the cravings, and the quiet moments when you realize that nobody ever really warned you about this part. If you can't fix it, at least you can hide under the covers for a while. And in the 1950s, that's almost as good as a solution. Pharmaceutical companies rake in profits while reassuring everyone that everything is perfectly normal. Congressional hearings are just a rumor. For now, the side effects are called signs of progress. And America marches on. Thin and twitchy, let's take a walk down the corridors of corporate America in the 1950s. A place where optimism is bottled, labeled, and shipped out by the millions. Pharmaceutical reps in sharp suits and shinier smiles fan out across the country, shaking hands with doctors, distributing free samples, and leaving behind not just pamphlets, but an entire philosophy. The message is simple. Science is the answer. And if your answer needs a little boost, we've got just the pill for you. There's a gold rush in every medicine cabinet. Benzedrine, dextrine, methedrine. If it ends in green, it's probably in your purse or nightstand. Ads in glossy magazines show cartoon doctors, white coats, sensible haircuts, a reassuring wink, promising modern miracles for the modern woman. Lose weight the scientific way. Tired? Overwhelmed? Try new peptabs and rediscover your zest for life. Nobody asks if this much zest is medically advisable. That's not the point. The point is to keep moving, keep buying, keep smiling. Behind the scenes, company profits climb higher than a housewife on her third dose of the day. Executives toast at luncheons, confident they're fueling the American dream. In boardrooms, they talk about market share and consumer loyalty. Never about insomnia or accidental nervous breakdowns. When a few doctors begin to murmur about adverse effects, the company issues a statement. Nothing to worry about. Just a sign the pills are working. After all, you wanted energy, didn't you? The jitters are just enthusiasm. The racing heart is your body's way of saying thank you. If questions are raised in the press, company spokesmen respond with earnest concern and impressive vocabulary. The safety profile is robust, they declare, and our product is under continuous review. Translation. We'll keep selling as long as you keep buying, and you'll keep buying as long as the advertisements promise miracles. They even sponsor educational films for schools and homemakers, showing perky mothers vacuuming at the speed of light and tossing salad with a vigor usually reserved for demolition work. Meanwhile, the government mostly watches from the sidelines, sipping coffee and hoping nobody looks too closely at the side effects list. Congressional hearings are whispered about but rarely materialize. And when they do, they're as breezy as a summer picnic. Lawmakers fret about unregulated enthusiasm, but pause whenever a pharmaceutical lobbyist enters the room with a smile and a checkbook. For now, regulation is little more than a polite suggestion. Doctors, caught in the middle, are courted like celebrities. They're invited to conferences, sent boxes of samples, and occasionally flown to educational retreats in Miami Beach. Because nothing says medical progress like free golf and bottomless shrimp cocktails, the reps assure them the pills are safe, effective, and absolutely necessary for modern living. If some patients get a little too thin, a little too anxious, well, The doctor can just switch them to the new formula coming out next spring. As the years roll on, so do the profits. America grows leaner, if not exactly healthier. Women share pills and stories, swapping side effects like baseball cards, while the companies quietly update the warning labels in tiny print, tucked away behind glowing testimonials and cartoon endorsements. If a few women collapse at a beauty salon, it's chalked up to overexcitement. If someone lands in the hospital, it's simply a rare reaction. Certainly not a reason to panic, but the cracks are beginning to show. There are rumors of lawsuits, stories of women who never really bounced back. The promise of effortless beauty now carries the fine print of exhaustion, anxiety, and a nation running on borrowed energy. But for now, the ad campaigns roll on, and so does America, thin, twitchy, and blissfully convinced that progress always comes in a pill. Congratulations, you've lived through Pharma's golden age, where every answer is a prescription. Every problem is perfectly normal, and the profits never, ever sleep. Fun fact, many doctors are taking their own pills too. How else can you see 60 patients a day and still have time to golf? The professional advice is, do as I do and do it quickly. Step into the office of Dr. Charles Macmillan, MD, proud member of the American Medical Association, local Rotary Club, and, as it turns out, the growing league of professionals who prescribe themselves pep for breakfast. You slide into the waiting room chair, flipping through a 3-month-old magazine, unaware that the man in the white coat behind the door is currently experiencing his own version of modern efficiency. He's on his second Benzodrine and thinking about whether he'll get 9 holes in after lunch. Yes, doctors are busy. They see a dozen patients before most people finish their coffee, sign mountains of paperwork, and field desperate phone calls from neighbors convinced their mole is suspicious. The answer to this breakneck schedule? The same answer they give you, a bottle of prescription amphetamines tucked in the top drawer between the tongue depressors and the emergency chocolates. In the 1950s, the white coat is armor, but it's also a disguise. The cheerful doctor who reassures you that everyone needs a little boost these days is also counting down the hours to his next refill. He tells you the pills are perfectly safe. And for him, they're more than that. They're the only way he's getting through a 14-hour day, 3 lunch meetings, and a weekend golf tournament. If he looks a little glassy-eyed during your appointment, just assume he's deeply invested in your cholesterol numbers and not, say, experiencing pharmaceutical déjà vu. It's not just your doctor, either. Medical conventions of the era are like pep rallies with less cheerleading and more barbiturates. A room full of men and women in lab coats, all bright-eyed, talking a mile a minute about increasing productivity and reducing fatigue. Pharmaceutical reps hand out samples like Halloween candy. Try the new blue ones. More focus, fewer side effects. Great for both patients and personal use. Nobody bats an eye. Everyone is riding the same high. By noon, the entire clinic is humming at a frequency that only dogs can hear. Nurses are charting vitals at record speed. Secretaries are typing with the fury of a player piano. And the office coffee pot has been untouched since the morning rush. Why drink caffeine when you can swallow modern science with your morning grapefruit? This medical camaraderie isn't exactly a secret. In fact, it's part of the marketing. Recommended by doctors, the ads boast, not mentioning the doctors are, quite literally, living proof. At professional luncheons, physicians quietly share tips on dosage, favorite brands, and how to switch back to just coffee for the summer months. Nobody talks about side effects. Nobody asks what happens when the prescription runs out. If you crash in private. Professionalism demands at least that much. For the ambitious doctor, These pills are a solution to a problem that modern medicine is just beginning to acknowledge: burnout. The same drugs prescribed for your housewife fatigue are keeping your general practitioner upright long enough to make house calls, deliver twins, and still play 18 holes before dark. At home, his wife marvels at his new energy, unaware that her prescription is the family's real breadwinner. There's a peculiar irony in all this. The people meant to safeguard the public's health are quietly negotiating their own. If a patient mentions jitters or insomnia, the doctor nods knowingly, adjusting the dosage as if tuning a radio. The white coat, the diploma, the calm bedside manner, all held together by a fragile thread of chemically enhanced focus. So next time your doctor says, "Take one every morning and you'll feel brand new," just remember, he probably did the same thing today, and he's hoping to squeeze in another round of golf before the crash. In 1956, the modern way is the fast way, and the only thing faster than progress is the doctor who prescribes it to himself. As tolerance builds, so does dosage. New, improved pills are rolled out every month. Some contain extra caffeine, some are mixed with tranquilizers. If your heart's not doing the jitterbug, are you even dieting? Let's drop into the thick of it. The golden era of diet pill escalation. By now, your medicine cabinet is starting to look like a display at the World's Fair of Modern Science. It started so simply. A little white tablet with your morning toast, a spring in your step and a song in your heart. But progress waits for no one, and neither do your growing nerves. Suddenly, what used to be miraculous is now just the baseline. The first pill worked, but now you need two, and with every refill, the pharmacy shelf looks more crowded, like a chemical arms bazaar dressed up in pastel. The brands have names that sound increasingly futuristic: Peptabs, Slimadrine, Vitatone, Ultra. Every month, there's a new formula, a new color, a new mascot, maybe a perky cartoon nurse, maybe a smiling model who's never actually eaten a sandwich. Your friends talk about the latest release like it's a new model of car. You simply must try the green ones. They go perfectly with morning coffee. Oh, the red ones gave me the jitters, but I finished all my spring cleaning in a single afternoon. Tolerance is the villain here, creeping in quietly, almost politely. At first, one pill sends you zipping around the house like a Roomba on a mission, but a week later, the effect is duller, your mood less sparkling. You find yourself squinting at the label. Did the doctor lower your dose? Did your body simply adjust? Did you, horror of horrors, just become used to it? The answer is yes, and so you do what everyone does. Up the ante. The pharmaceutical companies are way ahead of you. They race to outdo themselves and each other, mixing higher doses, adding new boosters. Some pills pack a double dose of caffeine, just in case the amphetamines weren't enough. Others are thoughtfully paired with barbiturates to take the edge off, which is corporate speak for so you don't rip the curtains off the wall before breakfast. There are nighttime versions that promise rest without ruining your new rail-thin waistline, though you'd have better luck sleeping on a roller coaster. Bridge Club becomes an impromptu pill review panel. I hear the blue ones make you cheerful, but the yellow ones make you see sounds. My pharmacist gave me a sample pack. I felt like a new woman for a week, then like an old one on Tuesday. Side effects are a point of pride, a kind of badge. If your hands aren't shaking, you're not taking enough. Mrs. Perkins laughs, rattling her orange plastic bottle like a set of maracas. Meanwhile, doctors do their best to keep up, adjusting dosages with a flick of the pen and a winning smile. Let's try this new one. Less buzz, more slimming, they suggest, ignoring the fact that every new prescription is just a faster ride on the same wild carousel. The advertisements play on your secret hopes. Supercharged, faster results, fewer calories, more compliments. You imagine a future where you don't just lose weight, you leave gravity behind entirely. As the pills escalate, so do the stories. Someone's cousin who tried the new brand and didn't sleep for 3 days, or Mrs. Jensen, who swears she could hear colors after 2 pink tablets and a cold glass of Tang, but nobody wants to be left behind. The one woman still dragging through her chores at yesterday's pace. So you join in, collecting capsules in every shade and strength, always searching for the new edge. The dosage creeps up, the side effects pile on, but nobody dares to stop. The arms race isn't just about being thin, it's about keeping up, about not falling behind, about the desperate, twitchy optimism of mid-century America. Congratulations. You're not just dieting, you're competing in the Olympics of pharmaceutical enthusiasm, and your only reward is another bottle of the latest, greatest miracle. May the fastest pill win. Headaches, shakes, paranoia, and a sudden belief that the neighbors are stealing your newspaper. The 1950s answer: ignore it and buy more pearls. Let's step into your newly sparkling kitchen. Sunlight glinting off every immaculate surface. As you nervously adjust your cardigan for the 3rd time in 10 minutes, there's a twitch in your left eyelid and a persistent thrum in your temples. You chalk it up to being busy, but deep down you know it's probably the 5th miracle pill you took before breakfast. Headaches have become as routine as coffee. The shakes, a side effect you pass off as just a chill. The sudden urge to double lock the doors? Well, you can never be too careful these days. You're not alone. All across suburbia, housewives are riding the same invisible roller coaster. At Bridge Club, nobody talks about the tension, headaches, or the nervous giggles that escape in the middle of serious conversations. Instead, you compare notes on lipstick shades, not on which the brand of pet pill has you convinced the refrigerator is humming out Morse code. Mrs. Franklin brings up how she's been seeing shadows out of the corner of her eye, and everyone laughs a little too loudly. You know how it is. The neighborhood kids are always up to something. Never mind that the real shadow is the mounting anxiety curling beneath the neat hem of your skirt. The nights are the worst. Sleep is a negotiation you rarely win. If you do drift off, it's a shallow sort of rest, haunted by dreams of endless cleaning and misplaced Tupperware. You wake up at 2 a.m., certain you heard a window creak or a raccoon in the garbage. Maybe it's raccoons. Maybe it's the neighbor's son. Maybe, just maybe, it's a side effect of whatever is in those colorful bottles on your bathroom shelf. Your husband sleeps soundly, oblivious to your midnight patrols and softly whispered complaints about how the mailman looked at you funny. Physically, you're starting to feel the cost. The shakes in your hands make it harder to thread a needle or write a thank you note. Sometimes you spill your morning coffee and blame the dog. Your jaw is tense, your neck stiff, and your heart skips and stutters in your chest with a worrying regularity. Maybe it's stress, you tell the doctor. He nods and writes another prescription. Maybe something gentler. Maybe something to help you sleep, but only after you get the ironing done. Paranoia is the uninvited guest at every gathering. You're not just worried about your weight, your chores, or your hair. Now, you're worried about whether Mrs. Perkins is talking about you behind your back, whether the children are plotting mutiny, whether the grocery store clerk knows too much. The line between caution and suspicion grows ever thinner. Sometimes you catch yourself double-checking the locks, hiding your pills a little deeper, lowering your voice when you mention side effects, just in case someone is listening. Everyone in the neighborhood has a theory about who's acting strange these days, never suspecting the answer is everyone. But the era's solution isn't to stop, or even to question. It's to accessorize. Feeling off? Add a string of pearls, some fresh lipstick, and a new dress. Smile for the neighbors and keep the curtains drawn. If the headaches get worse, take a bath. If the shakes turn into full-body jitters, double down on housework. The trick is to keep moving, keep shining, keep pretending everything is just as perfect as it looks in the magazines. The secret side effects become a secret handshake. You know who else is riding the wave by the way they tap their fingers, the slight tremor in their laugh, the way they stare a little too long at nothing at all. No one calls it what it is. You just keep going, clutching your pearls, smiling for the world, and hoping tomorrow the nerves will be gone. Congratulations, you're keeping up appearances, managing your symptoms, and out-paranoia-ing the competition. In 1956, that's just being a good neighbor. By the early 60s, hospitals fill with women suffering from mysterious ailments, heart palpitations, nervous breakdowns, insomnia. Doctors call it nerves, women call it Tuesday. You can feel the collective tension shift. The cocktail of fatigue, insomnia, and vague terror that once buzzed quietly in the background is now loud enough to rattle the linoleum. It's not just you, it's your neighbors, your bridge partners, your hairdresser, and the lady at the grocery store who suddenly burst into tears between the canned peas and the rice-a-roni. Everywhere you look, women are pale, thin, shaky, and just a bit off. It's as if the entire country's femininity is being powered by a humming electrical wire stretched just a little too tight. Doctors start to notice, reluctantly, but their answers are stuck in another era. Women's problems, they call them. Exhaustion, nerves. The prescription? Rest. A change of scenery. Perhaps a soothing afternoon at the beauty parlor. And, if all else fails, a new prescription with a slightly different label. No one says the word addiction. That would mean admitting the golden pills are anything but golden. At the hospital, a revolving door of women arrives, some clutching their handbags and apology bouquets, others dropped off by husbands who mutter about the stress of modern life. The symptoms are always the same: racing hearts, jittery hands, moods that swing between sunshine and thunderstorm, and sleep that never comes. The nurses shake their heads. Nerves again, they whisper, tucking another patient into a bed that smells faintly of antiseptic and defeat. The newspapers catch on, running features on the problem with modern womanhood. There are interviews with experts, all men, who theorize that feminine frailty is being pushed to its limit by the demands of home, family, and keeping up appearances. It's not the pills, they say with confidence. It's just that women these days are a little too ambitious. Nobody prints the real story. Millions of women spinning through their days on a carousel of prescription speed, now finally crashing to the ground. Even the television gets in on the act, airing cautionary tales with violin music and soft lighting, a voiceover in tones. Sometimes, the pressures of daily life can be too much for a modern housewife. The ad break promises relief in the form of, you guessed it, a new tranquilizer, preferably washed down with black coffee and a firm handshake. You sit on your living room sofa, staring at the screen, wondering if anyone will ever say what you're thinking. This is not just stress. This is not just nerves. This is what happens when society asks you to be everything and gives you nothing but pills. And still, the advice doesn't change. You're just tired, dear, your doctor says as he refills your prescription. Have you tried getting more fresh air? Your mother-in-law suggests you take a little nap and keep your chin up. Your friends trade recipes for calm and share their secret stashes of tranquilizers in the church parking lot. Some women start to talk, quietly at first, then a little louder. They write letters to the editor, form support groups in church basements, and even ask for help. though the word help is still whispered like a confession. The cracks in the suburban fantasy are widening, but nobody quite knows how to repair them. You sit at the kitchen table, staring at the latest pill bottle, wondering if maybe, just maybe, it's not all in your head. So you soldier on, as women always do. You tell yourself it's just a rough patch, that you'll get through it, that tomorrow you'll feel better. The world is finally starting to notice. But for now, the solution is still another pill, another pat on the hand, another day lived at the speed of denial. Congratulations. You're part of a generation that kept America running, even as it ran you ragged. When the world finally notices, it's almost a relief. Even if, for now, nobody really knows what to do except keep refilling the prescription. The culture doesn't change, but the message does. Thinness is a duty, not a dream. If you can't do it alone, modern medicine is there to help. Side effects include irony, mild outrage, and occasionally death. Let's settle in for a moment with your feet up, prescription bottle in hand, and reflect on what it means to be a woman in mid-century America. The house is spotless, dinner is cooking, and the latest issue of Ladies' Home Journal is perched open to an article titled 10 Ways to Please Your Husband Without Gaining an Ounce. The air is thick with the scent of floor wax and fresh-baked resentment. All around you, the message is clear. Thinness isn't just an option. It's your social obligation, right up there with church attendance and having a well-mannered poodle. It's everywhere you look. The new gospel of domesticity. The neighbor across the street, the one who used to pass you a slice of chocolate cake over the fence, now skips dessert and talks calories with a zeal usually reserved for tent revivals. The PTA meeting starts with old business and ends with a quick exchange of diet tips. At church socials, nobody asks about your soul, but everyone notices if you've gained a few pounds since Easter. Your own mother, sipping tea at the kitchen table, says, "We all have to watch our figures, dear," as if keeping yourself small is an inherited responsibility, like polishing the silver. And the patriarchy? It's as omnipresent as your Tupperware collection. Doctors, advertisers, and even the local grocer, all men, of course, remind you that beauty is obedience, and obedience is health. Can't lose weight the natural way? No problem. The friendly faces on TV tell you science is here to help. The pills, the powders, the promises, all wrapped up in a ribbon of approval from the men who decide what progress looks like. But the irony never quite leaves. Your doctor, who's been prescribing you diet pills with one hand and tranquilizers with the other, reassures your husband that she's just tired. Nothing a little willpower can't fix. Your boss at the volunteer committee compliments you on your new slim figure, hinting that you look almost as good as you did before the children. Advertisers crow about liberation as long as it's achieved with their latest, fastest product, now in pink. For women, freedom comes with a recommended daily dosage. Beneath the glossy surface, side effects bubble up like poorly mixed jello. Maybe it's just the pills, or maybe it's the constant weight of expectations. But you're more tired than you've ever been. Anxiety flickers behind every smile. Exhaustion follows you through each perfect room. And there are darker stories whispered at bridge club. Women who collapsed at the supermarket. Women whose hearts couldn't keep up with progress. Women whose nerves were so frazzled that even sleep became a battle. But the system soldiers on. If you falter, there's always a new product, a new promise, a new reason to blame yourself. Pills keep coming. The scale keeps judging. And the culture keeps reminding you that falling short isn't just a personal failing. It's a breach of social contract. After all, the men in charge say it's possible. So what's your excuse? The most bitter pill is this. The game is rigged. The patriarchy prescribes the poison and sells the cure. You live in a world that praises your self-control but never questions the reasons you need so much of it. If a few women don't make it, if a few lives are ruined or lost along the way, well, that's just the price of progress. She looked lovely at the end, they'll say. So graceful, so slender. Congratulations. You've met your cultural duty. You're smaller, hungrier, and more exhausted than ever, but at least you're doing your part. Welcome to the triangle of pills, pounds, and patriarchy, where the side effects are real and the irony is thicker than any mid-century casserole. The pills run out, the body rebels, and life slows to a crawl. Suddenly, eating feels terrifying and sleep feels impossible. Nobody calls it withdrawal. They just say you're adjusting. Let's peer into your living room on one of these adjustment days. The sun is up, but you barely are. Your skin feels like it belongs to someone else. Someone who's just returned from running a marathon barefoot through a cactus patch. Your limbs ache with a peculiar heaviness, as if you're moving through molasses instead of your newly polished kitchen. The world that once zipped by in a blur of pep and productivity now feels muffled, sticky, and slightly out of focus. The hunger creeps in first, not gently, but like a sudden thunderclap. For weeks, you barely noticed food. Now you dream about potatoes, casseroles, and buttered toast with a single-minded desperation. But eating, in the harsh light of your new, unmedicated reality, feels foreign and fraught. Don't let yourself go, you hear in your mind. A chorus of magazine headlines, bridge club chatter, and your own mother's voice, echoing from somewhere behind the drapes. Every bite comes with a serving of guilt, and every glance in the mirror feels like a verdict. Meanwhile, sleep, that old forgotten friend, remains out of reach. You lie awake at night, heart fluttering like a trapped moth, unable to get comfortable, unable to shut your eyes for more than a few restless minutes. Insomnia isn't the sharp, jittery sleeplessness of the pep pills. Now it's a hollow, dragging thing, the restless ache of a body and brain both confused by the sudden absence of artificial energy. You toss, you turn, you count ceiling cracks, but peace doesn't come. If it does, it's brief and unsatisfying, haunted by strange dreams, forgotten errands, and melting clocks. During the day, you are overwhelmed by the simplest things: folding laundry, making coffee, walking to the mailbox. Everything takes twice as long, and nothing feels worth the effort. The high-functioning, hyper-productive version of you has vanished, replaced by someone dull, slow, and strangely weepy. You find yourself staring into space, eyes glazed, hands idle. The kitchen floor is sticky. The couch is collecting crumbs. For the first time in months, you don't care. Your friends notice, or maybe they just pretend not to. The polite thing, after all, is to never ask too many questions. At Bridge Club, someone says, "You look tired," and another chimes in, "We all have our off weeks." Nobody mentions the obvious, that all of you have become accidental experts in feeling off, that this collective malaise is the price of the miracle you were promised. Nobody says the word withdrawal, because that would mean admitting there was something to withdraw from in the first place. You tell yourself it will pass. The magazine advice columns are full of tips for adjusting after a little too much excitement. Take a walk. Drink some water. Be patient with yourself. But the truth is, the body is angry, and so is the mind. The colors are duller, the sounds are sharper, and every emotion sits closer to the surface. You find yourself snapping at your husband, snapping at the kids, and finally snapping at yourself. The smallest setback brings on tears or rage or, worse, nothing at all. In quieter moments, you realize how fragile it all was. The sense of control, the cheerfulness, the slimmed-down silhouette. all of it built on a foundation of borrowed time and borrowed chemistry. Now that the bottle is empty, you see just how temporary the transformation was. You're still you, only slower, sadder, and suddenly so very tired. Congratulations, you've welcomed withdrawal, that unwelcome houseguest who won't clean up, won't leave, and refuses to let you sleep. You're not broken. You're just adjusting, like everyone else in town, to a new kind of normal. And in the 1950s, that's about as close to honesty as anyone gets. Not everyone took the bait. Some women refused the pills, skipped the parties, and stayed chubby on their own terms. They also, not coincidentally, tended to remember what day it was. Let's pause for a moment and visit the far end of the block, where Mrs. Louise Bennett is watering her tomatoes, not her azaleas, because she still knows which is which. She's not particularly thin, but she is unbothered, a rare breed in an era when every magazine and neighbor is singing the gospel of just one more pound. Louise still bakes with real butter, eats the occasional slice of pie, and finds no shame in a soft belly or an extra chin. Her secret? She never filled her doctor's prescription. It wasn't always easy. At Bridge Club, the other women raved about their newfound energy and marveled at how their skirts hung looser week after week. "Don't you want to try them, Louise?" Mrs. Perkins would ask, flashing her own orange bottle. Louise would shrug, pass the cookies, and say, "I'm fine with the old me." Sometimes she said it just to be difficult. Sometimes she really meant it. Either way, she saw no point in swallowing a pill that made her heart race and her hands shake, when all she really wanted was a nap and a quiet afternoon. At the beauty salon, Louise was something of an anomaly. While other women took turns fainting gently into their perms, Louise sat upright, reading a mystery novel and quietly observing the spectacle. When asked her secret, she'd wink and say, "Potatoes." It wasn't exactly true she liked vegetables of all sorts, but it was enough to keep the conversation from veering into pharmaceuticals. She wore her roundness like a soft shield, proof that it was possible to exist in the 1950s without treating hunger as a personal failing. Her marriage was less dramatic too. Louise's husband, Bill, never expected his wife to look like a movie star. He was pleased to come home to a woman who was awake at reasonable hours and capable of conversation not interrupted by nervous laughter or the urge to reorganize the pantry. Their evenings were spent in companionable silence, eating real dinners and sometimes dessert. And not once did Bill suggest Louise should ask the doctor about those new pills. Louise wasn't blind to the pressure. She saw the glossy ads, heard the whispers at church, and noticed how even the doctor's tone changed when she insisted she'd rather manage her nerves with chamomile tea and a crossword puzzle. Sometimes she doubted herself, especially when a friend dropped a dress size or bragged about newfound vigor, but then the same friend would forget her own birthday, or burst into tears at the PTA meeting, or quietly admit she hadn't slept in 3 days. Louise would listen, offer a steady hand, and say nothing about how she still remembered what she'd eaten for breakfast. It was lonely at times, being the odd one out. Louise learned to nod and smile when people shared their latest miracle. She perfected the art of politely declining invitations to pill parties, choosing instead to host the occasional coffee morning where nothing stronger than sugar passed the table. Her children grew up remembering the smell of baking bread and the sound of laughter that wasn't strained or jittery. As the years went on, the cult of thinness lost some of its shine. Some women realized that being happy didn't have to mean being hungry or exhausted. More and more began to look to people like Louise, who still had her appetite, her humor, and her sense of self intact. Congratulations. You've met the women who said no, who chose satisfaction over suffering, and remembered that living well sometimes means ignoring what everyone else is doing. Their bodies were softer, but their minds were sharper, and in the end, they proved you could survive the 50s with your appetite, your memories, and your sanity still mostly intact. The 1950s are long gone, but their obsession lingers. Every time you see a miracle fat burner or cleanse ad, remember, it's just a diet pill with better branding. We've been here before. The only thing that changes is the color of the pills. You know the drill. Open your phone, scroll for 30 seconds, and somewhere between a photo of someone's brunch and a video of a dog in sunglasses, there it is, a sleek pastel ad claiming you can reset your metabolism, shed stubborn fat, and reclaim your energy, all by drinking lemon-flavored mystery dust for 7 days. No need for pesky exercise or tedious nutrition. Just sprinkle the magic, smile wide, and thank the algorithm. Sound familiar? Because it is. This isn't the bold frontier of wellness. It's the refurbished, touchscreen version of the 1950s miracle pill playbook. Same promises, now with hashtags. Swap the smiling housewife in a girdle for an influencer in yoga pants, and you've got the same old formula. Sell thinness, promise happiness, and never mention the consequences until they're trending on Reddit. Back then, they promised speed. Literally and metaphorically. Pop a pill, drop a size. Today, it's clean supplements and natural boosters, which somehow still come with the same jittery aftertaste and mysterious urge to reorganize your closet at 3 a.m. The language has changed. Now it's biohacking and cleansing instead of reducing and slimming. But the goal is the same: make you smaller, quieter, and easier to market. And the packaging? Oh, it's gotten smarter. No more orange bottles with doctor labels. Now it's earth tones, minimalist fonts, and words like revitalize, detox, or harmonize. The modern diet pill wears a wellness hoodie and calls itself a supplement. It tells you it's not like those other pills. But when you look closely, it's still whispering the same old thing. You're not enough, unless you shrink. The playbook is so familiar it's almost comforting in its predictability. Step 1. Identify your insecurity. Step 2. Promise effortless change. Step 3. Monetize the fallout. It worked on your grandmother in 1957. It worked on your mother in 1983. And now it's sliding into your DMs like a cheerful ghost from diet culture past. Hey girl, want to glow from the inside out? We're told this time it's different. This time it's backed by science. This time, it's not about weight. It's about wellness. But wellness with a BMI requirement still reeks of patriarchy. When your worth is measured in inches, your health will always be up for sale. Even the side effects echo across time. Women in the 1950s dealt with the crash, the paranoia, the insomnia, and so do women now, just with better lighting and filter options. Now it's brain fog, adrenal fatigue, or unexpected mood changes. The marketing has evolved, but the symptoms haven't. Your grandmother chewed ice chips and took amphetamines. You blend kale and wonder why you haven't slept in 4 days. But here's the twist. Now we know better. Or at least we should. The research is out. The history is written. And the consequences have been well documented. Sometimes in medical journals, and sometimes in your aunt's Facebook post about why I stopped intermittent fasting after my hair fell out. We've seen how the cycle plays out. We've seen the damage. And yet, the temptation is still there. In every glittery bottle, every testimonial, every flawless before and after. So the next time a glowing ad promises to transform your body in 10 days, pause, remember, Mrs. Perkins in 1956, reorganizing her spice rack at 2 a.m., convinced she was finally winning. Remember the crash, the shakes, the silence that followed. And remember that underneath all the branding, it's the same old ghost, a little thinner, a little trendier, but just as hungry for your peace. Congratulations, you're living in the modern world. But the echoes of 1950s diet culture are still rattling in your medicine cabinet. And while the pills may have changed names, the pressure to disappear remains stubbornly the same. Your fridge isn't just for storing milk and that one mysterious leftover. It's also home to your ever-growing collection of diet pills. Somewhere between the butter and the casserole dish, there's a half-empty bottle of Slim Down Supreme. Why? Because the pharmacist said keep it cool, and the family dog keeps trying to eat them off the counter. It's only a matter of time before someone mistakes them for breath mints. Let's open the fridge door slowly. Not out of caution, but because this appliance has become the unwitting vault of mid-century pharmaceutical journey. The butter dish is where it should be. The eggs look judgmental as always. And tucked behind a jar of relish from 1953 is a collection of bottles with names like Trim Tab Ultra, Rapid Reduce, and Benzedrine Blue. They sit proudly among the condiments, like the VIPs of suburban wellness. Half chilled, half forgotten, they wait for their next moment of glory, which usually arrives around 11 a.m., the sacred hour of the second pep pill. Your husband, who thinks you're just into vitamins, asks no questions. He once tried to grab one for a headache, but you yanked it out of his hand so fast he hasn't opened the fridge unsupervised since. The kids are told they're mummy's special pills, which in the 1950s doesn't raise eyebrows, just a few nods of understanding and a reminder not to touch anything that comes in a brown glass bottle with a label that says, may cause mild heart palpitations. The instructions from the pharmacist were simple. Keep refrigerated, keep out of reach of children, and take with food, if you're still eating food. You nodded solemnly, placed the bottle next to the cottage cheese, and never looked back. It's not that you don't have a medicine cabinet. It's that the fridge feels safer, colder, and less likely to spill secrets during afternoon tea. Besides, the pills feel more legitimate next to the leftover meatloaf than they do next to your expired cold cream and emergency aspirin stash. Of course, storing pills in the fridge adds a certain unpredictability to your day. Sometimes, you go in for orange juice and come out chemically re-energized. Sometimes, you forget you've already taken one, and now the kitchen is extra clean and you've alphabetized the spices by scent. And sometimes, just sometimes, you grab a bottle of salad dressing and wonder why you're suddenly motivated to paint the garage. Guests are another story entirely. There's always a moment of fear when someone offers to grab the lemonade. Oh, no, you say too quickly, dashing over like a game show contestant. You open the fridge yourself, blocking the view with your body, and hand them their drink like nothing is amiss. And nothing is, unless you count the small pharmacy chilling behind the deviled eggs. Over time, the bottles multiply. Some are half-used and crusted shut. Others are brand new. The promise of a thinner, faster, you just waiting to be popped open and swallowed. A few are mystery pills, old prescriptions, free samples from a friend, or things you can't quite place but probably won't kill you. You organize them vaguely by effectiveness and color. You've considered labeling them Thursday, Bridge Club, and emergencies only. That is to say, family coming over. And yes, on more than one occasion, you've caught the dog sniffing around the counter again, likely hoping for a taste of that mysterious bottle he once licked and then sprinted in circles for 40 minutes. Congratulations, you've transformed your refrigerator into a part-time pharmacy, a cold vault of mid-century ambition, insecurity, and controlled substances. And really, is it any less absurd than storing your anti-anxiety medication next to the Jell-O? In 1956, cold storage wasn't just about food safety. It was about keeping your sanity chilled, one brightly colored pill at a time. It's Wednesday, which means piling into a Chevy with 3 other women, all of you vibrating at different frequencies of chemical enthusiasm. The conversation zigzags from PTA drama to which brand of diet pill has the best aftertaste. The radio is blaring. Someone's eyelid is twitching. Everyone agrees. Carpool is both the social event and nervous breakdown of the week. You start the day with a pill and a prayer, adjusting your hair just right and grabbing your thermos of lukewarm coffee. At precisely 7:58 a.m., the beige beast of suburban transport pulls up and your carpool. Today it's Mrs. Hutchinson's turn to drive, and her steering wheel grip is tight enough to bend steel. You slide into the back seat beside a woman wearing heels and the expression of someone who just deep cleaned her oven at 5 a.m. for fun. You're all smiling, sort of, mostly with your teeth. Inside the car, the air is a blend of perfume, coffee, Aqua Net, and the faint tang of high-octane nerves. Everyone's got a thermos. Everyone's already had 2 pills. And everyone insists they're feeling great, just a little warm. Conversations bounce like ping-pong balls. One moment it's gossip about the new gym teacher, too tan to be trustworthy. The next, it's an in-depth discussion on which diet pill gives you energy without making you hallucinate squirrels on your windowsill. The consensus? None. By the second stop, someone's recounting how she accidentally vacuumed an entire shoelace and didn't notice for 20 minutes. Laughter erupts, a bit too loud, a bit too long. The car swerves slightly. No, one's sure if it's the road or the tremor in Mrs. Hutchinson's right leg, which hasn't stopped bouncing since she mentioned she's on her 3rd booster today. The radio provides a near-constant wall of noise, not to enjoy, but to drown out the sound of everyone's thoughts. It's a top 40 station, and the DJ is too chipper for this hour. You all nod to the beat like it's helping. Someone changes the station, big band music. Someone else changes it again. Now it's silence, which is worse. Too many thoughts. Back to the DJ. Midway through the route, someone asks the critical question, "Have you tried the green ones?" Heads nod. Eyes widen. The green ones are legendary. Supposedly they give you energy and suppress your appetite and make your husband think you've taken up embroidery again. Nobody knows what's in them, but they're definitely not FDA approved, and they definitely work if your definition of work includes cleaning out your attic at 2 a.m. while composing a strongly worded letter to your senator. By the time you drop the last kid off at school, the car has become a mobile therapy session and pharmacy in one. Everyone's jittery, everyone's oversharing, and nobody can quite remember whether they've already said what they're about to say. The highs are high, laughter that makes your mascara run, and the lows are sneaking in around the edges. One woman mutters that she hasn't eaten since Sunday. Another says she's started naming her dust bunnies. Nobody blinks. You return home, legs still vibrating, heart fluttering like a hummingbird on espresso. You've got a fresh wave of anxiety, a headache brewing behind your eyebrows, and an inexplicable craving for pickles and absolute silence. But hey, the house is empty for 3 hours. Just enough time for another pill and a few loads of laundry. Congratulations. You survived the carpool gauntlet. 4 women, 2 kids, 1 radio, and a metric ton of caffeine and amphetamines. In the 1950s, this was friendship. This was connection. This was suburban solidarity on speed. You didn't just get the kids to school. You took part in the most chaotic wellness ritual of the week. Welcome to carpool. Buckle up. It's going to be a very productive ride. You've convinced yourself you're not hungry until 2 a.m., when the diet pills finally let go and your body organizes a coup. Suddenly, you're in the kitchen, crouched behind the fridge door, inhaling saltines like a raccoon who's just discovered indoor plumbing. In the morning, you'll blame the missing crackers on the children. The children blame the dog. The dog just wants a nap. This is what victory looks like. Your robe hanging off one shoulder, crumbs on your chin, and the cool hum of the refrigerator your only witness. The illusion of appetite suppression, meticulously curated throughout the day with pills, black coffee, and polite delusion, crumbles with your fourth saltine. You didn't plan this. Nobody plans a midnight snack ambush. But the body, pushed to the edge, stages its rebellion not with pitchforks, but with peanut butter and a spoon you're now using like a weapon. The kitchen tiles are cold, but your shame is lukewarm at best. After all, you've been good. So good. You smiled through PTA meetings on nothing but half a grapefruit and a caffeine tablet. You folded 8 loads of laundry, while whispering affirmations about discipline. You declined a slice of cake at Mrs. Hutchinson's party with the grace of a saint and the inner anguish of someone imagining frosting in vivid, multi-sensory detail. But now you're squatting in front of the fridge with a mouth full of cheese cubes and the sudden realization that you may have just gnawed on a cold hot dog like it owed you money. The irony doesn't hit you yet. Your brain is too foggy from the crash. Earlier, you were a whirlwind of energy. Now, your body feels like a toddler post-tantrum, limp, emotionally fragile, and inexplicably sticky. You stare at the mayonnaise jar and wonder if that's a snack or a crime. You opt for a spoonful, maybe 2. You try to regain control. Just a taste, you whisper to no one, knowing full well this is the lie that opens the gates of midnight grazing. Crackers become toast. Toast becomes half a leftover casserole, and suddenly you're elbow deep in Tupperware trying to remember if this chicken was cooked last week or during the Truman administration. At one point, you freeze, convinced you heard someone coming. You slam the fridge shut, breathe heavily like a cat burglar mid-heist, and compose yourself. It's just the house settling or your stomach, preparing to file a formal complaint. You shuffle back to bed in shame, or something like it. Your stomach no longer hollow, but now filled with a blend of salt, regret, and expired potato salad. You curl up and swear, tomorrow, you'll do better. You'll be strong. You'll be perfect. You'll definitely not eat mayonnaise with a spoon again. Probably. And the next morning, you rewrite history. You look at the empty cracker box and feign confusion. Must be the kids, you murmur. You avoid your own reflection. You put on your best lipstick and take your morning pill with a fresh cup of coffee and a generous scoop of denial. The cycle resets, hunger postponed, cravings restrained, willpower on layaway. Because in 1950s America, hunger is a flaw, not a function. Wanting food is weakness. Giving in, a private sin to be covered with perfume, polite smiles, and vague references to feeling under the weather. So you press on, another day of clean living, caffeine, and enough amphetamines to fuel a small jazz band. Congratulations. You've survived another night of secret snacking and emotional gymnastics. And like any proper suburban vigilante, you left no trace, except the scent of dill pickles and the haunting realization that your dog, once again, knows too much. So tonight, as you drift off in your clean bed with no shoes, no girdle, and absolutely zero amphetamines buzzing through your system, just take a moment to marvel at the wild ride that was 1950s wellness. You survived a day powered by diet pills, the breakfast of champions and the insomnia of champions too. You endured the cleaning sprees, the skipped meals, the parties with a little pep on the side, and the kind of dinner conversation that could only come from someone who's been awake for 48 hours and hasn't eaten since Tuesday. Maybe you felt the pressure to shrink your waistline or keep up with the neighbor who never seemed to blink. Maybe you even caught yourself thinking that a little help from science sounded nice, until science turned out to be a handful of amphetamines, a sprinkle of cultural shame, and a side order of mild paranoia. You saw how the culture, the doctors, and the endless marketing all joined hands in an energetic conga line, hustling women toward thinner bodies and busier minds, with little regard for actual health. But through all of it, there was resilience. Women kept going. They built families, shared secrets, formed carpool alliances, and sometimes even laughed at the absurdity of it all. They survived both the pills and the pressure. With humor, wit, and maybe